Increase. So this award lets me know that
good morning. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Bienvenue. Hola. Bienvenidos, benvenuta, namaste, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemmological storyteller. And each week, I get the magnificent opportunity to take the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry, and somehow put them all together into a story. What I've discovered over many years, and actually learned more and more each and every week, is that many of the same characteristics, the same attributes, the same qualities that we so highly value in gemstones, you find in people. People from all over the world, men, women from different countries and different cultures, you find those qualities. So what I do is I take those gem stories and I use them as a template, as an inception point, as a seed, as a bridge to help people, to empower people, and oftentimes to remind people to take time to look at, to discover the value of their own stories, of who they are. How do they relate with other people? How do they interact with the light? Today's show is going to be really interesting because it's in many ways an origin story. It is 19 years of just understanding the relationship between gemstones and people. We live in a country where we live in a world, and I certainly live in a country where people have issues with color. Yeah, they have issues with color. And it always, as a person of color, that's always been a strange thing to me. And again, I'm not going to say the S word. I'm not going to even say the R word. We're just going to talk about color. And I just want you to see if it makes sense at the end of today's show. It's always been interesting to me because we act like color was a choice. As if like when I clearly remember just before I was born, there was a man standing there just before I was ready to be born. And in fact, he was a Frenchman. I remember he had an accent and everything. He was standing there getting ready to go. And he looked at the clipboard. He said, "Monsieur, you have a choice of what color you would like." And I said, "Wow, this is kind of cool." So I picked blue. I did. And he's like, "I'm sorry, sir, but blue is not available." I said, "Okay, all right. What about fuchsia? Kind of being fuchsia would be a nice color." And he was just like, "No, I'm sorry, sir. That color is not available at all." And I said, "Okay, well, what color is available?" He said, "Brown." I was like, "What?" He said, "Brown." I said, "What color is that?" He said, "Brown." I was like, "Okay." Voila. Now, maybe you guys had a choice, but this is the only choice that I had because of what was available to me. And gemstones are just like that. They don't get a choice. They are what they are based on what was around them, based on the environment, based on the place in the world or the pressures or how deep they were in the earth. Those things, those elements that were around them made them the color that they are. Thank you, Barbara. When you start studying gemology, and those of you, first of all, I want to say thank you and welcome to some new people. Leslie is my saxophone player I just met from New York, Sarah Lawrence College. Bonjour, Leslie, and some new people. Thank you for being here. When you begin to study gemology, the study of gemstones, precious metals, fine jewelry, the thing that you begin to understand is the importance of color. Yes, you study molecular structures. You just have what's the molecular structure of this gemstone. You begin to study the chemical composition. You look at what the refractive index is. How the light goes through and how the light bends within the gemstone. You talk about where the gemstone is from and all the types of forces that it takes to create that gemstone. And many gemstones are tens and millions of billion, that's tenths of a diamond, over a billion years old. Many gemstones were here from the beginning of the earth. But the one thing that you really begin to understand if you decide to study gemology is the importance of color. In previous episodes, I talked about the 4 attributes or the 3 attributes that you need to be a gemstone. You need to be rare, you need to be beautiful, and you need to be durable. Okay? Also desirable. Rare, beautiful, durable, and desirable. People have to want it. There's about 5,500 different minerals on Earth. Of those 5,500 minerals, there are about 2,700 of them are species, meaning that they have a certain family, a certain group that they are close to, like emeralds. Emeralds have not just the green variety. You got the aquamarine, you got heliodor, which is yellow, you got morganite, which is pink, or aquamarine, which is blue. But all of those gemstones, those separate gemstones, are part of a species called beryls. And then, so of those 2,700 species, only about 100 of them have those characteristics: rare, beautiful, and durable, and desirable. And we talked about different shows how that desirability can change. Amethyst used to be a cardinal stone. Cardinal stones, for those of you who don't remember, cardinal stones are diamonds, rubies, emeralds, sapphires. Well, amethyst used to be a cardinal stone. In fact, amethyst was even more powerful than diamonds. Pearls pearls is not actually a gemstone, but pearls took the top slot. It wasn't until Louis XIV, the Sun King, decided that diamonds were what people wanted. So rarity, beauty, desirability, durability. And of those, only about of 5,500 minerals, only about 100 of them qualify as gemstones. And when you're learning gemology, the key thing you have to understand is color. Learning about color is almost like learning about a drug. Color is a drug. The greatest thing, the thing that I get off on about studying gemology has never been about wearing gemstones. I mean, I didn't grow up with gemstones. My mother, my mother had a few nice pieces. She had a ring, she had a couple of necklaces. My father bought her some earrings, but I never grew up with gemstones. I never grew up with that whole concept of, a gemstone. I mean, I thought they were pretty, but I never really got into it. The thing that excites me about gemology, the study of gemology, is what people will do to get it. It's amazing. This is the symbol of my company. The Celtic symbol is the symbol of eternity. That means eternity. And I have the gemstones in different directions because all gemstones were used for their metaphysical properties long before, and the way people felt about them long before they were jewelry. Rubies, emeralds, sapphires, citrine, which is quartz, which we use today in everything, technology, electronics, diamonds, and of course gold. But of those gemstones, the key thing that you have to understand is color. And when you begin to understand that from a gemmological point of view, as you're reading through all these books, here's a whole book right here, Colored Gemstones. This is just one. There's 2 volumes of this. Look at the size. Look at the size of this. This is all about color. Just color or something. GIA. When you understand color and the power that color has over people, then you begin to understand the magical properties of color. So what I entitled today's show is The Magical Properties of Color. Quick story. The first gemstone show that I ever went to in my life was the Las Vegas show. Big in one of the hotels, huge show. Everybody that it was anybody in the gemstone industry, businesses, sellers, suppliers, everything were at that show. First time. So I'm like, wow. And my business partner at the time, and the person who really got me started in this, Cosette Barrett, we were walking around. We were the only African American. Maybe there was thousands of people. I saw 5 people that looked like me. Okay. So we're walking around and I went to the left. It was the aisles and booths. I went to the left. She went to the right. And I got I was looking, I don't even know what I was looking at. And I was just looking at the gemstones, amazed at just the beauty of everything. And all of a sudden I heard her go, "Oh my God!" And just, I won't call it a shriek, but certainly like, "Oh my God!" My mind immediately went into like DEFCON 1. Okay, like, okay, it's ready, it's on. Because like I said, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me in the whole place. So I'm ready. I run around the corner. She was in the next aisle. I run around and I said, what? Thinking like, who do I have to fight first? I'm always a Marine. And then she said, "Look." And I looked down and there was this beautiful aquamarine. And it was an aquamarine that I had never seen. In the books, it looks nice, but when to actually see it, it was like diving. It was like you were looking into an ocean. Those of you who have been to the Caribbean or been to places like Tahiti, you know what really, really blue water looks like. It was like that. And she was lost in it. That's when I began to understand the power of color. So when you have been studying gemstones, when you see how important color is, I mean, gemology is nothing but color. 98% of what a gemstone is, as far as value, is based on its color. And it's not like we just learned this. We have learned this for thousands of years, from like 10,000 years ago. Absolutely. Cleopatra knew about gemstones, knew about color. Genghis Khan knew about color. You know, the Medicis in Italy knew about color. You know, Columbus knew about color, and all the conquerors, they all knew about color. So the question is, for me, is why do I live in a world, why do I live in a country where we have issues about color? As you guys know, I have a company called the Gem Hunter, Gemmological Appraisals and Storytelling Services, Art, Science, History, Magic. And what I do is I take those stories in workshops, at schools, at corporations, and I take those characteristics that are in gemstones and I use it to teach people about not only their story, I don't teach them about their story, I get them to understand their story. And then as a platform, as a standard, as a template, I get them to say what their story is and then make that jump, make that analogy to gemstones. Because guys, it is so easy. I can do this show forever and never even come close to all the characteristics that fit into gemology. It's not, I won't say it's easy, but it's just right there. It's right there. So what I do is I teach people to discover the value. This is why I say every week, the value of your story, because my premise is, if we give this material, this gem material, if we give this gem material value based on its color, based on there's molecules in that gemstone that gives it that color, then why can't we extrapolate that same value into people? Not just people of color, not just people of color, but people, in general. People, human beings. That's my premise. That's the whole purpose. Those of you who are new, that's the purpose of this show. To show you the whole variety of different ways that you can look at a gemstone. I can look at a gemstone. Here's my loop. I can look at a gemstone, look at the qualities, the characteristics, the cut, where that cut gemstone came from, how was it made, and easily make the transition, or see, or at least ask myself the question, if this is this, then this should be this. It's almost like a logic question. Those of you who took logic in school. Like a diamond. Like we always talk about diamonds. Diamonds, extremely valuable, treasured. But diamonds are actually the only gemstone that is highly valued in its transparent form. Diamond's the only one that's valuable in its transparent form. Excuse me one sec. That's it, a diamond. Now, diamonds come in every color of the rainbow, but when you're talking about a transparent gemstone, a gemstone without color, it's diamond. The rest of the gemstones that we highly value have color. Color. I have books, color, whole book. There's a whole book on the origins of color. Excuse me. Gemstones of the world, color. So when you begin to understand what color means, then you begin to understand that color is more than just something that you see. There is a connection. And this is where last week I was talking about how I didn't believe in metaphysics. That's when I began to understand what metaphysics is, how it happens, and how it's not hocus pocus. It's a real thing. When Cosette looked at that gemstone and said, "Look, it was like, I don't even know how to compare it. It was like she saw the secret to life, or just like everything she felt was right there. She saw beauty. If she had to define beauty at that moment, it was right there in that aquamarine. I think about that woman, the first diamond tennis bracelet I ever sold. That woman looked at her arm. I mean, she looked at her arm like it was brand new growth, like she hadn't had that. And the woman had, she was in her 30s easily. Okay. And she looked at her arm all night. At least I was there at the party, maybe 3-4 hours. She was still in there. She never left that room. She was just there looking at her arm. Color. And it wasn't even color. It was diamonds and gold, but she was looking at it. That's the power. There's a great book. I have it right here. There's a great book called Stone by Aja Radin. And Aja Radin makes a wonderful analogy when she's talking about the history of mankind. She talks about the history of mankind really can be defined in 3 words. Okay. In fact, let me go back. So when you understand color, you understand that this ring right here, what you're looking at, this ring cost $30.4 million. $30.4 million. There is somebody on the planet who is wearing a $30.4 million ring. That is a white metal with a colorless gemstone. And the key thing of this piece, this is called the Sunrise Ruby, is that red ruby. The ring didn't cost $34 million. The stone, the ruby itself, was $30.4 million. Based on what? Color. So again, as I go through this, ask yourself a question. Why do we live in a world, all of us, where you hear stories about people being seen in a different way because of color? So, and again, we don't have to make it political. We don't have to make it social. Yeah, all that's involved in, but let's look at, just like the Jack Webb used to say, let's just look at the facts. So as I was talking about, Asha says that the history of mankind, really, history of the world, really regards 3 qualities: want, take, have. And when you say want, take, have, the whole history of mankind is based on those needs that we have. Want, take, have. And when you look at the whole history of gemology, you understand that it's about color. No woman on the planet ever walks into a jewelry store and says, I want a nice piece of carbon on my hand. I really do. I just want a nice certain shape. I just want a piece of, or honey, I really want what? Sweetie, I would really like a magnet. I'm trying to decide whether I want a magnesium beryllium silicate, emerald, or I think I like red. I think I want an aluminum oxide, just a nice aluminum oxide with a hint of chromium, which would make it a ruby. No woman has ever said that to me, to any jeweler. So it's also the value that you put into that gemstone is based on color. There you go. So let's continue. And again, I talk about art, science, history, magic. Don't run away. We're going to talk about science, but I'm going to make it really, really simple for you. Really simple for you. Because there's really only 2 types of gemstones. Two classes of gemstones. Either you're, and we've talked about this before, either you're allochromatic or you're idiochromatic. All gemstones are either gemstones, the 100 species I'm talking about, are either allochromatic or idiochromatic. So allochromatic is my left hand, idiochromatic is my right hand. So let's do a review. Not to scare you guys. Don't just get a piece of paper and a pencil because you want to take this down, but don't be afraid. Allochromatic means that it is a gemstone that has transition elements in it, that you have a basic structure. There's a basic structure that you have. And in that basic structure, you have something put in it. So what those something is what's called the coloring elements or the transition elements. If those of you remember your chemistry, your high school, not your high school, your elementary, 7th, 8th grade chemistry, remember the periodic table? Well, in the middle of the periodic table is what's called the transition elements. Most of them are metals. Well, at least in the middle of the periodic table, they're all metals. And there's a couple that are not metals. So when you put one of these elements inside a structure, then that element that you put in creates a different color. And we got it down to a science, literally. Titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, boron, which is a non-metal, and nitrogen, which is also a non-metal. But these elements, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, these element 10, the whole history of the world is based on whether or not you got one of these inside of, whether or not you have an emerald that has, or a gemstone that has one of these inside of it. Real simple. I told you, it's simple. This is what we base everything on. This is what that $30 million the ruby is about. That you had aluminum oxide that just happened to be in the neighborhood in a place where there was chromium in it. So chromium creates a red color. So let's, in fact, before we do that, titanium makes a blue color. You have a gemstone that has vanadium in it. It's either green or pink. Chromium, red or green. Manganese is pink, like morganite. Iron makes the most. Iron has red, yellow, green, or blue. Cobalt, blue. Nickel, green. Copper can green or blue. Boron, blue diamonds, the Hope diamond. The Hope diamond is a colorless diamond without boron. If you took this diamond, if it was real, I always have to remind people, there's new people on the show, this is not real. But if I took this diamond, which is made out of carbon, and I took a hint of boron, just a few molecules of the 1,000 molecules, just a few molecules, it will change the molecular structure of this diamond to the point where it will become blue. Boron. And then you got nickel. Nickel, of course, diamond. If you put nitrogen in a diamond, it will be yellow. You got that? All right, good. Now, so let me give you some examples. Here's an element. Here's a emerald ring. Of these coloring elements, when you put chromium in this gemstone becomes green. This is an emerald, and it is green. It is a beryl, and it is green because of that chromium in it. That's why. Here's a ruby. This is the part that gets me, and I want you to really understand that. It's the same thing, and I'll show you why this really resonates with me in a minute. This emerald is made out of what? It's made out of magnesium beryllium silicate. So when you put that chromium in that structure, it becomes green. But when you take chromium and put it into aluminum oxide, it becomes red. It becomes red in color. So go ahead and take a break. Let me just take a break. Let me just let you understand that. Let's take a break and we'll continue on to this deep dive when we come back from the other side. Yeah, that's happiness is. I was on the banks of a very famous river that's in France, and that my hero Napoleon. That was one of his greatest battles. Actually, one of his final battles, other than Waterloo. He won against insurmountable odds. He won that, and I was there. And yesterday was Napoleon's birthday, so happy birthday to the Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. So back to what we were talking about. So you have two structures, two molecular structures that when you put the exact same thing in it, chromium, it turns out two different colors. And you can do this with every gemstone. This is what gemology is about, figuring out what is the molecular structure of it, what is it made out of, and then what's in it to create the color you want. In fact, we know it so well that that's where your synthetic gems comes from. Some people talk about, oh, I don't like synthetics. Ladies and gentlemen, let me help you with this. Now, there are people, I understand that there are people who want the real thing. There are people who want something that came out of the ground, something that's been around for thousands of years, and they take pride in that because that's what they want. Like that woman that told me when I worked in one of the jewelry stores and was making the comparison between a diamond ring in that jewelry store and that same diamond ring that was online and Tiffany's, same, everything was fine. And I was like, ma'am, the only difference between the two of them is the box. And she said, looked me right in my eye and said, that's what I want. I want the box. So I'm not here to tell you that real gemstones are not worth it. Don't get it. No, if that's what you want there. But those of you who want the gemstone, who want the color and want the gemstone, a synthetic gemstone, which is a far less expensive, is the exact same thing. In fact, let me give you the truth. In many cases, the synthetic version of it is better than the real because it's refined. It's refined. So there's a process called the pull method where you're creating perfect gemstone that nature can't even make it. In fact, that's how, when I use a loop, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what is natural, like an emerald. You can tell a natural emerald because emeralds have something, they have inclusions in it. If I don't see that in that emerald, I'm like, yeah, okay. It's either extremely rare, and if someone is not telling you they paid tens and thousands of dollars for it, then more than likely it's synthetic. So let's continue on. Here's a garnet. Garnet has a molecular structure. When you put iron in it, this is the almandine garnet. When you put iron in it, it becomes this color. This is what most people think about when they think about garnet. But we talked about this a few months ago, January actually, when we talk about garnet comes in like about 8 different colors because with garnet has a molecular structure that's such that it uses a whole bunch of these colorful elements in different capacities, either as a variable or as a constant. And when you change it around, it changes the color of it. It changes the color. So here's the garnet. Here's almandine garnet, red, right? Red, because you put iron in it. Here's the spartite garnet, pretty much the same molecular structure. The difference is what? Manganese. You give it an orange color. Same, still a garnet. It's just different. Why? Because of what you put inside of it. There's jade. Jadeite jade. Beautiful. Look at it. Beautiful. The same chromium that made an emerald green is the same chromium that made jade green. This jadeite jade green. This is the stone of, I'm looking for the book. This is the stone here. I got it right here. The stone of, the title of this book is called The Stone of Heaven, the unearthing of the secret history of imperial green jade. Imperial green jade. So whole entire empires were created, were banked, were seen as valuable because of chromium. Just happened to be where the jade was being developed. Thousands, tens of thousands of years ago. Aquamarine. Remember what aquamarine is? Aquamarine is a what? a beryl, Beryl. It's the same gemstone that emerald that we were looking at. They're sisters, they're cousins. And if instead of putting chromium in it, you put iron in it, it becomes a beautiful blue color. Same molecular structure. Sapphire, remember? Sapphires, rubies, those of you born in September, hello, sapphires are the sister gemstone of a ruby. Aluminum oxide. In fact, when you make rubies, it takes trace amounts of chromium. When you have sapphire, which comes in blue, green, yellow, orange, purple, black, gray, when you put those different percentages of those coloring elements in that aluminum oxide, it turns every color in the rainbow except red. Yeah. Same molecular structure. It's what you put in it. Here's a yellow diamond. I showed you what a colorless diamond looks like. In fact, here's colorless diamonds all around it, but instead, so these little diamonds, all these other diamonds are colors because there wasn't nothing in it. So it's transparent. In the with a yellow diamond, you have a higher amount of nitrogen. In fact, it's so valued, there's a whole class of gemstone called fancy colors, fancy gemstone. So because this is such a beautiful yellow color, just because you have nitrogen in it, now you have nitrogen in the gemstones that are like, the color scale from D to Z. So when you have a gemstone that's like an N or M, yeah, you got a lot of nitrogen in it, but it's not as pure as this. So it doesn't have the same value just because there's nitrogen in it, but not to the point of this yellow diamond has. So therefore it has a different value because of what it is. There you go. Just take a second and look at that. You don't even have to be in yellow and just into yellow and just say, wow. All because of nitrogen. Nitrogen, the same nitrogen. Take a deep breath. 78% of what you just breathed in was nitrogen. That's what made that color. Blue diamond. Again, boron. Notice I'm not even saying the names of the diamond, even though this is the Hope diamond. But this diamond has been praised since, everybody had this diamond. Napoleon had this diamond. Louis XIV, who was first presented to, had this diamond. Queens of England had this diamond. Now it sits in the Smithsonian Institution, and its worth is priceless because it just had a hint amount of boron in it. Now, let me show you how that relates to being allochromatic when you're a human being. And this is the part that got me. This is the part I started thinking, wait a minute. If you're saying, if we are human beings, most of us, 2 eyes, 2 legs, 2 arms, mouth in the center, no eye in the center of your head, 2 eyes, ears. If you have the molecular structure of a human being, if you identify as a human being, took me a long time to identify as that, but I finally identified as a human being, gave up my alien identity. I'm a human being. So if you take the same concept of understanding that if in a gemstone, when you put something in that gemstone, it manifests a certain color, then the same thing has to work for people. On a chemical molecular structure. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, independent, gay, straight, whatever else. Guess what? Who you are is still made up of those 118 elements on the periodic table. You're not getting away from that. Okay? That's what God made. You can even get spiritual. That's what God made. God made every last one of those 118 elements. So therefore, iron doesn't work. Iron works in different ways in different people. So the coloring elements in people, okay, I'm sorry. So what you have to understand about being allochromatic is that the coloring elements are not essential to what it is. That's why a diamond can be transparent. If you don't have anything inside of it, it's transparent. And other than a diamond, it doesn't have any real value. In fact, here we go. This is a sapphire. This is a sapphire. Yep, this is aluminum oxide when you don't have any color in it. I could easily throw this away. In fact, when I got this, I told you there was a whole trough of these at a very nice restaurant. Whole trough of these. This is a sapphire without iron and titanium in it. So it has no real value. That's what allochromatic is. So let's put it in terms of people. Here's the coloring elements for people. Yeah, look at it. Think about it. If you give a person healthy, clean food, clean water, if you come from a healthy family where people love them, their mom and stuff, that their mom tell you that they love them, which I didn't get that, okay? If you come from a dad that makes you feel good about who you are, if you have friends, friends that you play ball with and things that you had friends, you had people that you can talk to. You went to a good school. And you guys who watch my show know that one of the greatest, my mom was a serious alcoholic. The greatest thing that my mother did for me, the thing that I have realized, the greatest thing my mother did for me was teach me how to read, was to make me read, was to give me this sense of, boy, do not come home with anything less than a B. When I get to heaven, the first thing I'm going to tell my mother is thank you. Education. When you put education into a person, that's why you have the Harvards, the Yales, the Northwesterns, the colleges, the teachers. When you put that education in a person, it changes who they are. Their color is different. Music changes you. Books. This is National Book Lovers Month, right? When you read a book, as that commercial said, when you read a book, you're sitting there like, oh my God. You learn. That's what Napoleon did. Napoleon's greatest attribute was that he was a voracious reader. Napoleon had a time in his life where he had a choice between, he had just enough money for either food or book. He bought a book. He bought a book over food. And he became because of that. A safe environment, respect for yourself, respect for a home. Hello, as a homeless person, let me tell you, your whole color changes when you don't have a home, when you don't have a place to live. Things like, toilet paper, food, a bed. When you have those things and you put those things into a human being, when you put those attributes, those coloring elements, and there's a whole bunch more, you guys know, religion, whatever religion that is for you, so many different things. Think about it. In fact, that's your homework. Let me give you a homework assignment. Think about all the things that are inside of you as a person and what were the coloring elements that made you who you are today. If you're a lawyer, how did you get to be a lawyer? Someone told you a story. Someone put that element inside of you. When I saw Star Wars and I heard Obi-Wan Kenobi said, Luke, a force is an energy field that created by all living things. It surrounds us, it binds us, it brings the galaxy together. At that moment, I said, I want to be a Jedi when I grow up. It was an element. It was something inside of me. Something inside of you that made you who you are today. And from there, you can be. Remember, let's go back to elementary school. Remember what's in the rainbow? Red, orange, yellow. Roy G. Biv. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. There you go. You, as a human being, we're over gemstones is because we get the chance to literally put whatever coloring element that we want to put inside of us. Think about it. Think about it. Food are chemicals. If you put good food in your body, you know that you're going to be healthier. All right? You're going to be healthier because it's going to manifest the energy, the molecular structure, the chemical processes that food, that iron, that magnesium, all those things that's in the food is in. Do you realize that minerals, like I said, there's 5,500 minerals. The average American uses in their life, in a year, at least 30, in some way, shape, or form, 38,000 pounds of minerals every year. And when you start understanding the relationship to that, then you understand the power of what just color is. Here's a rainbow. This is a shot from my bedroom window. A rainbow. Maybe that's what was God's reminder of what the rainbow is. I know there's a whole nother story about it, but maybe part of that rainbow, maybe part of that reminder is understanding what we can be. Those same processes. In fact, what's interesting about a rainbow is you have to look. The reason why you see a rainbow is because you have to see it at a certain angle. I think it's like 38.7, something like this. You have to see it. Your eyes with the water drops, they have to see it in such a way where it splits the light that creates a rainbow. Science. Science. No hocus pocus, science. There you go. In fact, that day, there was 2 rainbows. Two rainbows. I'm looking at it. This is not no special camera trick. I just pointed the camera. There was 2 rainbows. This is, in fact, what's so amazing about this place, this is called Rainbow Beach. Rainbow Beach. Yeah. Now, the other one, we talked about allochromatic. Here's a structure that you put something in it and it manifests a certain color. But then there's another type of gemstone. Idiochromatic. Idiochromatic is where the coloring element is an essential part of its atomic structure. Meaning of this, if this was the structure, where you see the gray, I don't know how, but where you have the places where the green bars connect, that would be possibly that coloring element. And because you have that coloring element in the molecular structure of that gemstone manifests a certain color. Okay? Here's peridot. Those of you born August, happy birthday. Peridot is your gemstone. Peridot is that color and can only be that color. There is no such thing as an orange. When you're doing gem identification and I see an orange gemstone, someone said, I think this is peridot. No, it's not. Why not? Because it can't be. Why not? Because it's orange. There is no such thing as an orange peridot. Why? Excuse me. Because peridot is an idiochromatic gemstone. The iron is in the structure. Therefore, it gives it that green color. Malachite, copper. If you put copper in that molecular structure, and I don't want to get to, I mean, I know the molecular structure, but I don't want to give you that because it confuses some of you get scared. So I just want to, once you understand that, here's the structure, you put copper in it. Well, I'm sorry. Here's the structure. Within that structure is copper, and it gives it that color. Cuprite, copper. Very rare. It's very rare to have the basic structure of those things coming together and being a part of that molecular structure to make that gemstone. Rhodochrosite, manganese, the same manganese that gives the orange color to the spreadpartite garnet is what makes rhodochrosite that color. Same manganese, same thing, just different structure. Ruralite. I never know how to pronounce this word, but this is basically a garnet. This is a garnet. So the same chromium that made it different for the iron made a garnet red, but the chromium made emerald green. That same chromium, when you put it in the structure of a garnet, it has this beauty. In fact, I like this one better than emerald. It's so the green is just more pure to me. It's just a beautiful, but that's my preference. But this is of all the different, there's like 10, 15 different garnets. Okay. This is one of the most rare. Azurite, copper. Same copper that made the malachite green is the same copper that makes azurite blue. And we could just go on and on. Cinnabar. Cinnabar is not even one of these elements. So I had to check it out. I was just like, what exactly makes cinnabar red? You know what makes cinnabar red? Mercury, which is another element within the transition element. That's what makes cinnabar a dangerous gemstone, because mercury is very toxic. But that toxic element, mercury, when it's in that molecular structure, makes something toxic, makes this dreadstone red, this gem material red, but it's also toxic. Kind of sounds like people that we know, right? Some people are, because of the way they grew up, because of who they are, their structure, their mom smoked cigarettes when they were being born, or they didn't have proper nutrition. So who they are as a person, as a human being, as a living organism, change because of what their parents, both sides, what they did to where they created the child. When you had crack babies, stuff like this, why do you think you don't smoke cigarettes, or you don't eat bad food, or you don't do drugs when you're pregnant? Because it changes what the child is going to become. Same process. Turquoise, same copper again. Copper again. It's built into the structure. That's what makes it that color. It doesn't have a choice. It is because that's the way it was born. I didn't have a choice. The only color the man said is, we have brown. Okay. That's the color. Now, if blue ever comes up available, I'll take it. But for right now, this is the color I have. This is how I manifest the light. This is the color. And the same thing works for all of you. We are idiochromatic. Some of us are idiochromatic gemstones. We're idiochromatic human beings. And when I was thinking, there's whole bunches of people that I can think of to use as demonstration. But let me use somebody that just came to my mind recently. Simone Biles. Simone Biles quit. She went through all she went through during the Olympics. She had what they call the twisties and everything else. She's superhuman, but she went through what she went through. So she stopped competing. She got married, everything else for 2 years. Girl came back, competed, just took everything. This is the most decorated Olympian of all time. Look at her. The most decorated Olympic athlete in the history of Olympics. Because she's idiochromatic. It is built into her. There's a whole bunch of people that train. There's a whole bunch of people who do gymnastics. I was a gymnast once upon a time, long time ago. I remember Sukahara from the Tokyo team, 1968 Olympics. Oh my God. But when you see Simone Biles, you realize that this is a whole completely different type of human being. She was designed. Her mother, her father, their genetic footprint, who they are. Remember back in science, 7th grade, remember? Sperm, egg, 50% of who you are comes from mom. The other 50% of who you are comes from dad. When you mix them together, your DNA, you become, ta-da, voila, who you are. So whoever Simone's mom and dad was, when they got together on that fateful day and night and everything else, and they made a human being that is completely prepared to become what she is today. What? Look at the form. Look at her whole thing. She was designed, and you can say that about singers and doctors and lawyers. When you read about Madame Marie Curie, and you talk about how Madame Marie Curie, her mother was a teacher. Her mother was a principal of a school. Her father taught physics and mathematics. Is it any wonder? And because she was a shy little girl, she turned to education for her salvation. So there was that element that was put inside of her. So when you talk about Madame Marie Curie, you're talking about a woman who in the 19th century won not one, but two Nobel Prizes in chemistry and physics. And Her daughter, Irene, also won a Nobel Prize in chemistry. Yeah. So the same principles that exist in a gemstone is the exact same principles that exist for people. So my question is why? Why do we have a problem with color? The purpose of this show is to take these stories, and again, nothing I said was mystical, magical, or whatever. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. But let's just talk about the facts. Let's just talk about what a gemstone is. Why did you pay $30 million for that stone just because that stone had chromium in it? Because of the color. So whatever color you are, from white all the way to midnight black, to mahogany brown, to a rich reddish color of your skin, yellows. All of those processes, who you are as a person, came to you, happened for you. Either you are allochromatic, you went to good school, your mother loved you, you had good food when you were growing up, you lived in a safe environment. You didn't have to worry about getting whatever in whatever city you just were a kid and you played and you did all these things, allochromatic, or you're idiochromatic. You were just born with the proper genetics that allowed you to do what you do. So, and this is not just a one to dead. We didn't even talk about tourmaline. All the colors, tourmaline has all the colors of the rainbow. But I hope you got something out of it. I hope my purpose is to make you just go, that old saying, things that make you go, that's what this show is about. So I want you to think about today, your homework assignment is to figure out first of all, are you allochromatic or idiochromatic? One. And two, if you're allochromatic, what is the element that's inside of you? What is the thing that makes you special? What is the thing that people should value? One, you should value about yourself, but people should value about you. If you have beautiful hair because you just have beautiful hair, I don't understand that experience, but if you have beautiful hair, it's because of your mother, your father gave you that. You're idiochromatic. That's how your hair grows. And that's just one of the magical properties. This color of your skin is just one of the magical properties of color. So until next week, we'll definitely be talking. No, we got a whole nother surprise for you next week. But until then, my name is Barry B. Mixon. I am a gemmological storyteller. And I hope you spend at least a little bit of time in your day to begin to discover the value of your own stories. So until next week, au revoir, à te tella, voilà. There are over 100 different gemstones that come in the color of green. Diamonds, emeralds, jade, even sapphire. But peridot is the only gemstone that comes in one color, green, from a beautiful yellowish green to the most highly valued olive green. So if you know someone who loves the color green, peridot might be the stone for you. Discover the value of your story.